It's 105.9 The Rock, Nashville's classic rock. It's Battle in the Morning, and you've heard us talking about it. You know me, big wrestling fan. AEW makes its triumphant return to Nashville tonight. They're going to be in Clarksville at the F&M Bank Arena, which, by the way, you can still grab tickets, Ticketmaster.com. But I've been talking about a special guest coming into the studio, Hendersonville's own legendary guy. And I will tell you that this person is more legendary in my book than Taylor Swift from Hendersonville. Make some noise for Jeff Jarrett in studio right now. Jeff Jarrett.
Old friend.
How are you, sir?
On 105.9, I better be a bigger legend than Tay-Tay, right?
I mean, you
I'm
are
kidding.
a much bigger legend. Although the
kidding.
legend does precede the whole situation. We've talked about this before, how somehow Jeff Jarrett's babysitter back in the day was Taylor Swift.
Let's don't go down that road again. She's done quite well for herself.
I think she has.
I taught her well, her entrepreneurial spirit. But Tim, how are you doing, my man?
Happy
Wednesday.
Yes.
Dynamite, F&M Bank Arena. My first time up there in the arena. I've been in Clarksville many, many times. Wrestled. My family's promoted up there. Jeez, going back to the 60s. My dad promoted 70s, 80s, 90s. I've Clarksville Northwest, Clarksville Northeast. I've wrestled. I've watched my daughters play basketball. And now tonight, Clarksville is going to be seen not just around the country, but around the globe. Simulcast on Max. We are officially in the streaming era of professional wrestling. For an old timer like you back in the asylum days.
Yeah, every
We've come
Wednesday.
a long way, my man.
We have definitely come a long way. And, you know, one thing that I want to talk about, because a lot of people were kind of like kicking around the media, it was like, Jeff Jarrett has a big announcement. And I was like, is this it? Is this the moment? And you announce that you have one more run and you're going after a championship run. What motivated this decision? Which title are you aiming to capture? Obviously, you want the one that Moxley has, correct?
Absolutely. You know, I don't think we have time this morning, but maybe this can be living on your podcast, the long version. But no, every year I reevaluate my career, specifically in December, and my contract was actually coming up. I signed a 2-year deal, and before I re-signed, if you will, I really took a long, hard look at everything. Not only talked to my wife, Karen, but talked to my kids. And then on this opportunity, I've really never gone this deep, but I called some guys in this business and also guys out of the business. And I had in-depth conversations on, what do you think? Like, is it time to hang it up? Should I finish? Should I just keep my business cap on? You would have never dreamed, I certainly didn't, that you had in your bingo card 2 years ago that I would be a full-time wrestler for AEW. That just, it wasn't, you know, what I thought where my career was going to be. Again, I started wrestling in 1986 and every year that went along, but I took a long, hard look. And to the man, they all said, Jeff, I don't think in your heart of hearts you're ready to hang it up. And each one of them, and the first person to say this was my partner, Jay Lethal. Jay was like, hey, man, we appreciate everything that's kind of what we call it, the group, Satnam Singh, Jay Lethal, Sanjay, my wife. We appreciate everything you've done for us. But, man, if this is your last contract, because I'd kind of made up my mind that this was going to be my last contract. If this is your last contract, swing for the fences. I kept hearing that said multiple different ways, but look, go for it all. And I had some quiet time, and I thought back to the story that my dad taught me when I was a young man, real young man. And this was taught to him by his grandfather. And he said, look, in life, he used the analogy, if you want to figure out how to climb a tree, don't get up under the tree and figure out how to climb to the first branch. Get way away from it, look at the very top branch, and figure out how you're going to climb there. And at the very least, you're probably going to get halfway up and you're going to have a lot of fun. So when I stepped back and I looked and I said, you know what a way to go out. I could fall flat on my face, as I said in Nashville, going for this, but I'm going to give it my all. And hopes of all hope, my man, Tim, I'm going for the world title. I want one shot at it. It's not like I'm begging and yearning like I was as a kid for a long title reign. Our old friend Toby Keith would often say, ain't as good as I once was, but I just need to be good once as I ever was. So I just need the one shot. And that's what I'm shooting for. I want the AEW world title, one shot.
Man, and you know, we sit here and we follow each other on Instagram, and I've watched over the years. I followed the career growing up as a kid, and it's like, I don't see there's any time soon that Jeff Jarrett's going to stop. I mean, I see your videos every day on the treadmill and the workout videos. Like, I see them on your Instagram stories. So it's cool to see this. And it's also cool to see that, like, you've also thought to yourself, when it's time to put the boots in the middle of the ring and walk away. Other people don't really have that in the back of their mind that, hey, we're going to stop. It's like, I'm going to retire, then I'll come back out. I'm going to retire, then I'm going to come back out. But for you, it seems like you're kind of set in stone that, hey, this is it. This is the last ride.
And I don't know how long this ride's going to be, and I won't get into contract terms and all that kind of stuff, but this is my last talent contract. There's no doubt in my mind. Look, my kids, we've had conversations through the years. They're like, Dad, are you sure? Because they see me after the matches, the soreness and the preparation. And like you referenced, I've never worked out this hard in the gym in my life. And the stretching and the yoga and the conditioning, not just the weights, all around. It is my lifestyle. But there's a price to pay for that. But Tim, I've got my sights set and I'm going to give it my all.
Hey, and you're on this show, and I will tell you, in good track record of everybody that comes on the show goes on to win gold. So I'm just saying, you're here now. You don't have gold, but you're going after gold. I see.
You're going to sprinkle some Tim Battle dust on me?
I'm going to sprinkle some Tim Battle dust out there and make sure that Jeff Jarrett puts his name in that history book of AEW World Heavyweight Champion.
I'll take it.
I mean, it's going to be a fun time when we see that happening. And, again, fun time tonight. AEW Dynamite is live in Clarksville. You can still grab your tickets, Ticketmaster.com. It's at F&M Bank Arena. And, one thing that you have expressed interest in is, after wrestling is done, moving to the commentary booth. How do you envision that, like, moving into that? I mean, we've seen Jericho as still an active wrestler. He goes to the commentary booth. What kind of insights and unique things would you bring to commentary after wrestling is done?
And now I'm going to play that and take that one day at a time. When I signed originally with AEW a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, that wasn't on my, as the kids say, bingo card. But they asked me one time to fill in. I did an analyst for 0 Hour, and then another a spot on 0 Hour. And then I did a 2 hour Dynamite and a 1 hour Rampage. And it's something that I just kind of, by luck, like, man, I kind of like this. I love this. But I do say, and I've told about every announcer that I've been around or been in a dressing room, and I'm talking about back to the 90s, they have a very difficult job. I always admired, in so many ways, I call him one of my first mentors, Jerry the King Lawler. I grew up watching him as a wrestler. And then when he segued into a color commentator and had that legendary run, he has such a unique skill set. And I could go on and on. All color commentators and play-by-play that have had longevity, they've got a real skill set, but they also have a passion for the industry. They know their trade. I'm beyond below a rookie as far as being an analyst or a color commentator. So when the time comes, I'm going to cross that, but I might give that a shot.
Oh, and I'm excited to see when that time comes. We're not saying it's happening now, but when that time comes, it's going to be fun to hear good old Double J on the mic behind there.
We'll see.
Now, with everything with the wrestling landscape right now heading to streaming, in a recent episode of your podcast, My World, which go subscribe to it right now, leave it 5 stars and tell Conrad that, leave Conrad a nice message on the comments. You discussed wrestling survival on streaming platforms. What are your thoughts of the future of wrestling in the digital age, and how should promotions adapt to it?
It is, God, we're sitting here talking about just coming off of AEW on Max, WWE on Netflix. And I, kind of go back and people knew it as FITE, FITE.
Mm-hmm.
New Japan Pro Wrestling was my first foray into that, 2014, 15. We're going back to WWE Network, 2012, 13, 14, around those times. We knew this day was coming, but it's all about exposure. And the world has changed so much that I don't care if you're a small independent promotion or as big as they get, if you're not in tune with, and I sometimes kind of delineate, and I put YouTube they're the world's largest network, but X and Instagram and TikTok, and you name a few others, that's where you really connect with your audience. So you have to have a strong social media game, and that will blow up your streaming world. You kind of look at us on Max. We did our first one in Nashville. We over in Charlotte this past weekend for Collision, did all that, and now we're entering into that world where people can watch us globally. But at the end of the day, compelling content always wins the race. That's what, as a promotion, everyone has to focus on, creating compelling content.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, AEW is putting out compelling content, which you're going to be able to watch tonight. F&M Bank Arena there in Clarksville, Ticketmaster.com. You can still grab those tickets. And, you've been a part of a lot of great locker rooms. I mean, you look at Jeff Jarrett's career and it spans over years. I mean, hell, you're a Hall of Famer, for God's sake.
Easy now, pal.
Where do you see AEW heading in the next 5 years? I know a lot of people on, the internet want to dispel AEW and say bad things about it, but I think we've only just scratched the surface.
And look, a little over 5 years, but here's the thing that I think a lot of times almost gets lost in the shuffle because it's really never been done. Look at the diversity of our roster. We have obviously American stars in Canada, but we also have Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Mexico, all through Europe, India. The diversity of our roster, I believe we're poised for, and I don't want to just call it international growth, but I'm just saying growth in general is that at the end of the day, content is king. And when I say content is king, that's the name of the game: stringing, digital, social media. And to create content, you got to have talent. AEW is poised with the depth of their roster to do things in this industry that's never been done. And so that's why, the growing pains that a company has, everything that AEW has done has been obviously loud of everybody, for better or worse. But at the end of the day, we're out there creating content and entered into the streaming world on Max. Those are really, really big deals. But the world we live in can be hyper focused on the least bit of a snafu, and it is what it is. But I learned from my grandmother: as long as they're talking, as long as they're criticizing, good or bad, it's a positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, is like I'm in all these like Facebook groups and groups on social media, and it's like people don't know how to just be a wrestling fan anymore.
Well, Tim, we could probably get into a debate on that. The wrestling fan has changed.
Yes.
And I say that to say that, when you have the ability on X or Instagram to put comments out into the universe, regardless if you are a true consumer, and I say a consumer, that means that you are in some way, shape, or form buying the product or buying merch or really watching the TV, then that's where it gets gray. That are the vocal minority. Are they really paying customers? Are they really consumers? At the end of the day, that's where the wrestling fans change, because there's so many platforms out there that they can voice their opinion. To me, the one thing that will never change in this business is when you stand back behind the curtain about 6 inches and you watch a talent go through the ring, through the curtain, and get down to the ring, and you hear the crowd response live. That is irreplaceable, because the people that are responding, they don't have a gun to their head. They paid money. They left their house. They came down, drank some beer, ate some popcorn and hot dogs or whatever it may be, but they're invested in the product, and then they're responding. That's irreplaceable. And I think sometimes a lot of folks, whether it's on X or Instagram, or whether it's a promoter, whether it's a talent, or whether it's like you, Tim, there's no doubt in my mind, me and you, if we never knew each other and we crossed each other downtown, you coming out of Tootsie's and me going in, we could have a 20-minute conversation on professional wrestling on a multitude of subjects, but we would walk away from each other knowing, hey man, that dude loves this wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's kind of the gray area that we're in. We don't know if these folks out there that are hypercritical, where they set on it. That's why I like to listen to the crowd. They're irreplaceable. That response is irreplaceable.
Yeah. And, I sit there as a fan because I've grown up in so many different eras of wrestling, and I've got a 7-year-old who's now getting into wrestling, and he doesn't see I'm team this promotion, I'm team this promotion. He just says, I like wrestling. Yeah. Like he has wrestling figures from WWE and AEW and whatever else, and he loves wrestling. But it's just the fun thing of sitting in the crowd watching, like you said, the reaction. Yep. I'll never forget We were at Blood and Guts last year.
Okay.
When you came out,
oh gosh, yeah,
that crowd erupted. Doesn't matter if Jeff Jarrett's a heel or a face, wrestling terms for those that don't know.
good guy, bad guy.
Yes, that crowd went nuts for Jeff Jarrett.
Oh, Brandon Cutler got the guitar necklace.
Yes, and that was the thing, and I love going to wrestling shows, even if it's like your local indie wrestling shows where there's like 25 people there. You're still gonna have fun. And I think that's the thing that we need to get back to in wrestling is not be team this, team that. It's be team wrestling.
Well, Tim, I got
I
news
wish.
for you. We ain't going back. Nothing goes back. But the business has ebbs and flows and ups and downs. I go back to as long as we're talking about it, good, bad, or indifferent. Keep on keeping on.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And again, tonight's AEW taking over Clarksville. They're at F&M Bank Arena. You can still grab your tickets, Ticketmaster.com. And real quick, before we let you get out of here, we know that you've said that this is it for you. This is the last run. Looking back on your career, I mean, you look at all the things, NWA World Heavyweight Championship, WWE Hall of Famer, Heavyweight Champion. How do you hope to be remembered by fans and peers in the wrestling community?
Oh, boy. I have probably learned the hard way. I want them to remember however they feel. The one thing that I truly believe I've prided myself on, and it's more of an internal thing as far as an external thing, when I show up, I go to work. I'm hoping my PR wizard guru could speak for that, or I hope a cameraman or a boss or a coworker, whoever it may be. But certainly the fan first and foremost is that, hey man, when Jeff showed up, he came to work. Of course, I don't do everything right, and I don't do everything wrong, but the effort, and that is something that I've learned through the years. And at the end of the day, that is a big part of why I looked my daughters in the eye and said, "Why are you still doing this?" And I said, "Because I can still contribute." This business has been very good to not just myself, but my entire family. My grandmother in 1946, and I tell this, the decision she made to take a second job selling wrestling tickets changed my family's life's trajectory forever. And so I'm grateful for the wrestling business in so many ways. And as long as I can contribute to it, I'm going to be here.
Man, and it's again, it's an honor to have you on the show, and
Appreciate
we call you a
Tim.
friend. You've now taken the record of most appearances on the show. You have now beaten your boss, Tony Khan. So Tony, if you're watching, listening, whatever,
I love it.
Jeff just took your record. So sorry, Tony. But Jeff,
just keep playing my song down at the Preds games. That's all I asked him.
Hey, I tell you, man, that's my biggest thing when I DJ those Preds games is always to squeeze in a wrestling theme song. And of course, you were at the last game that we were at, and I played your song, and some people in the crowd started getting excited, and then you came popping out right under the DJ booth. They're like, "What's happening?" But man, Jeff, it's an honor and a privilege to have you in
brother.
studio,
Always
man.
Appreciate having on tonight. AEWTix.com, F&M Bank Arena.